Hi, friends. You made it to day 4. I'm so proud of you. Well, let's jump right in. Today, you're just going to need something to draw with, something to draw on, and your drawing from yesterday of your round container. So, you need to bring that to this discussion, and we'll see you in a second. Well, here we are, getting into the nitty gritty of drawing structure and getting our drawings to look more like we want them to look, which is difficult, right? We have this standard and we know what looks good and we know what doesn't. And pretty much, and I hate to be the one to tell you this, but it's going to probably be like a little bit your whole life. Like there's what you want it to look like and there's what it looks like, and there's a gap between the two. But what we're doing here together is working on narrowing that gap so that what you want it to look like and what it actually looks like, your drawing I'm talking about, is very close. And that is just a matter of practice and learning some of these things we're talking about. So at this point, 4 days in, I want to ask you, is this what you expected things to be like? Is this better or worse than what you expected? I don't, I would love to hear from you if you can leave a comment or whatever in how this process has gone for you. I know learning anything is challenging, especially something that takes some work and time to develop. It's challenging. It's not always fun in the midst of it. And I'm torn in this tension between making this fun for you and us all learning together, us all getting somewhere, because I'm not sure you could always have both at the same time. But here's the thing, if you do learn, if you do grow and develop in your skill and you get better, that's fun. It's fun to see progress. And so I'm going to trust that as we work and grow together in this whole thing, that it is fun in the end. So how did it go drawing this container? Now, I did warn you that this is notoriously difficult. It is very difficult to draw a round thing sitting on something in front of you. If you took a photo of it and drew from the photo, that can make it a little easier, because if you move it all or you get up and get something to drink or go to the bathroom or something and come back, you notice that you can never find that exact same spot angle that you're in. It all changes, and that can be very frustrating too. But either way, it's a challenging exercise, and that's why I partially assigned it to us, because it's going to help with all three of those things that we talked about. Remember, three pieces of the structure of a drawing, three aspects, if you will, that determine if it looks accurate or not. Remember what those were? Those are relationships, size and distance between things, also angles, and also shapes. If you can figure out how to accurately reproduce those three things in your drawing, it will look incredibly close to what you're trying to draw. And that is just that's just a matter of fact. And you can get better at all those things. In fact, for each one of those three things, I'm going to show you some skills, some tools, some tricks, if you want to call them that, hacks, whatever you want to call them, to get all three of those things closer to the target, which is accuracy, looking like you want it to look. So that's where we're going to be going. So I would love for you to flip open your sketchbook or pull out your drawings of the cup here and take a look at it. And what I did is I drew one as I would just do if I sat down to draw it now as myself or whatever. And then I also drew one that is a very common, like, of the same glass with some of the common mistakes that people make that I've made many times. I used to make a lot more before I learned some of these things. And so I'm going to kind of compare and contrast the two to show you uh, how these specific three things can be affected. And then you're going to get another challenge for today, not the same one. You're going to get a new one for today, and we're going to go over that. So uh, let's take a look at these two drawings, and talk about our three aspects. All right, you see here we have my two drawings of this glass, which I set in front of me, which I'm going to use in a minute to show you some things. So I'll set that right there. But in these two drawings, I want to point out some of those aspects that change it. And my guess is that most of you are somewhere between this and this. I really kind of um, tried hard to make this as kind of basic as I could, and I maybe some of you feel like you didn't even do as good as this one. That's okay. That's okay. Remember, embrace failure. Embrace the difficulty of it not being exactly what you want it to be, because that's how you know you're going to work at it and get better. Uh, that's exactly what you need to find the direction to get to learn these things and get better. So, uh, relationships, size, and distance. Well, there's only one object in this. Well, there's two objects. The glass is one object, and the table it's sitting on, or the horizontal surface, is the other. And you may have drawn a pop can, or I just had a round container uh, that you had to have. So it could have been a coffee mug. Uh, it could have been anything round. Really, the only relationship here is the glass to the table. And I want you to look at these two drawings. This drawing, I put a line in it up here, and that line establishes the edge of a table. And that's really important for things to look real. If you remember when I did the sailboat in the first day, I talked about putting that horizon line in there and how that really is important for establishing your viewpoint and everything. And it is important. Uh, there are many drawings that aren't grounded, and they're just something floating in space. You might see someone's face, a drawing of someone's face, or their pet or something, and it's just that thing floating in the middle of the page. That does happen, and that does have a special use. Graphic art is that way. If you're drawing letters and a lot of stuff like that, it's on a physical object, so it doesn't have an existence in time and space. But for this instance, these do have an existence in time and space. We're drawing, or at least we're trying to make it look like they do. And a big piece of doing that is grounding your subject. So putting that sailboat in the water so that it looks like it's real, like it's really there. Um, Putting this glass on a table so that it looks like it's there. And that this line, this simple little line going across there, is mentally just does that for the glass. Now, in this drawing, I also put a line in here. But one thing that's you'll notice about this, and this is very common when people do drawings, they draw like the ground or whatever, and then they put their stuff all around on it, is that the ground usually isn't like just a perfectly flat line. And what this drawing over here did is basically assume that that cup is either really close to the edge of that table, and or you're looking perfectly at it from the side. And both of those scenarios are not very likely. Like this scenario can exist. I can put a glass on a table and make it look like that. But it's just not real. It's not just normally going to happen in everyday life. And so it doesn't help with some of the other things we're going to talk about with this drawing over here, it doesn't help us at all. Convince the viewer that this is a real glass and it looks accurate. Okay. All right. That's all I'm going to say about that. We're going to spend a day talking about relationships and size, and it'll be easier when we have multiple objects. Hint, hint for tomorrow to talk about. But next one is angles. The angles that we find in something. In this drawing here, I worked fairly hard to get, and the perspective's off a little bit because of the angle of the camera here I'm using, but I worked to keep, and I didn't get it just right. This one has a little bit more angle than the other one. I think the camera's throwing it off too. A little bit of a wide angle here so you can see from my perspective. But I worked hard to get these angles the exact same. Unless you're tipping your head weird, you really can't get a situation where unless the glass is like really weird and they made it weird, you can't get these two angles to be. They should never be different. They should be the same. And when I say angle, I'm talking about this angle right here, the sides of the glass, that angle. And so you really it's just so important to have those be not only the right angle but the same. So two aspects of that. On this one here, this one is, I intentionally drew it a little more straight up than this one. We didn't get it just right, and I just didn't take the care to get the angles exactly right. Finally, the last thing in this drawing that we want to pay attention to, remember the three things, are shapes. The shapes, right? And in this drawing here, I worked to try to get these ellipses. That's a word that we're going to talk about a decent amount with drawing, is to get these accurate. An ellipse is a type of circle that isn't a perfect circle. It's an oval in a sense, and the term we use for that is an ellipse. And I worked to get that ellipse right. On this drawing, you'll notice right here, uh, I did another one of those common drawing mistakes, which is, the bottom of the glass is flat because it sits on a table. So you draw the bottom of the glass essentially flat. The only time you would ever see the bottom of a round object perfectly flat, no, it's not perfect, but perfectly flat, is if you were perfectly at eye level looking at it. As if you were perfectly, see, here's a curve. I'm looking at this curve right here. And the only time, because there's still a little curve here, and we're almost straight at us, is right here. It's perfectly flat. It's like literally 1 in a million that that bottom of that glass would ever be flat. And guess what? If the bottom of the glass is, I don't think I can do this. Yeah, if the bottom of the glass is perfectly flat, look what the top is doing. Look what the top is doing. You could never have, unless it would get really close to it if you were like a mile away from the glass. The top and bottom could be flat. You're not going to see the glass from a mile away. So it's almost impossible that the two things. So on your container, I know you didn't probably do the exact same thing. On your container, you had a top and a bottom and it's round. I don't believe it's very likely that either the top or the bottom would be flat. It's going to be a curve. It's going to be an ellipse. And so I made a mistake here, common mistake of drawing a flat bottom on a cup because I know the bottom's flat. And on the top, it is slightly rounded because I know we did that, but it is not an ellipse. Well, okay, to be accurate, that is an ellipse, but it's not a realistic depiction of a true circular top of the glass. It kind of goes flat, flat, and then curves in there. And when a glass gets close to level, or like this, if that's what we're trying to draw, it does a tight curve here in one curve, and then it does a big curve, another tight curve, and another big curve. There's really 4 different aspects. These 2 are the same, and these 2 are the same. There's a tight curve over here, and a tight curve over here, and a big curve up here, and a big curve down here. And it's always that way. Even right here, very tight. I'm trying to do this so you can see it. Very tight little arc down here, and then very big arc down here. And as you tip it, those 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, those 4 things get close to all the same. And now as I tip it, the upper and lower ones are getting wider and the side ones are getting tighter. And it's a trade-off as you go. And like I said, we're going to spend some time on ellipses because they show up everywhere in life. And they're just one of these super difficult things that you have to work at. So, but honestly, once you kind of understand them and see it and learn to really see it, it actually becomes pretty easy. So that's the cool thing. And my dogs are going crazy. One last thing I want to say about shapes is this one here looks like the shape of the glass that we know is the shape of the glass, right? Skinny at the bottom, tall at the top. This one doesn't look, if I just showed you this shape without all the lines in it and stuff, like the silhouette of this, it wouldn't look very much like in fact, I'm going to draw it here because I think it'll help you see what I'm talking about. If I drew the outline of that glass, it's something like that. Don't believe me? There you go. But the outline of the glass, the shape of my subject, looks like a bean or something. I mean, it just doesn't look like you expect a glass like this to look. And so we're always fighting with drawing what we see versus what we think we see. And this is going to be our challenge all the way through forever. Drawing what you see versus what you think you see. That's just the challenge. But here's the really, really cool thing about this is that if you learn to do this, and you can learn to do this, you're going to learn to do this going through this series. You get the double benefit of being able to draw better and also seeing the world in a whole new way. I promise you, drawers and artists see the world better than other people. I know that's a big statement, but I think it's true. You see the relationships and the angles and the sizes of things in a much more accurate way. And if you don't just every day regularly, you will when you go to draw. Because you have to. You have to look for these things and really pay attention to them. So that's a benefit. So this is a process, and I don't expect you to already know all this stuff or to even grasp it immediately. It's going to be a process of learning it, but these are some of the most important lessons for drawing, and it really is. These 3 things are really key for accurate drawings. And so today's challenge, you ready for this? This is your challenge for today. Is I want you to do another quick drawing. I'm going to say 15 minutes or less, and you got to pay attention to that. I don't want you sitting there for 2 hours frustrated or racing or whatever. I want you to try to do this quick and just let it be what it's going to be and learn from it. But I want you to do a drawing of 3 objects. 3 objects. The only requirements I have are this. They've got to be, one's got to be a coin. So you got to find a coin somewhere and put it in the 3 objects. They cannot be too complex. I don't want you putting something in there that is going to be really hard to do within the amount of time to make it look accurate. So it's really something simple. Maybe a piece of fruit or, man, I don't know. And maybe another round object or a square object or something. And then the third thing is that they all need to be a similar size. Uh, don't put a coin in there and then put like a skateboard or something else big, a big pillow or something, like something that will fit in like a size like this. And three things, arrange them however you want. Also, you can take a photo again of them so that the angle doesn't change every time you move if you want to, or you can just draw it live. And that is your challenge for today. This is called a still life. You're going to do a still life. So these objects are just sitting there still, of a coin and two other objects that are not a crazy difference in size and not too difficult. All right. And then today, for your encouragement and your direction, your encouragement is that these three things can be learned and mastered once you know what they are and you pay attention to them. And your direction for today is to pay attention to them. Pay attention to the relationships of distance and size. You're going to have multiple objects in this. And so you're going to have to pay attention to how far apart they are and how big they are compared to each other. And you're also going to need to pay attention to the angles that are there and also the shapes that are there. So I want you to be mindful of all three of those things as you do your still life drawing. Okay? I believe you can do this and learn from this. And remember to embrace your best friends of failure and your knowledge that you know something doesn't look right, because these are going to guide you and help you keep going and getting better as you go. All right. Thanks for joining me again today. I can't wait to see you tomorrow and to talk more about this. See you then.